All right, looks like we're live here. All right, what's up, everybody? I am SuperSonic71087, bringing you the first Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Genesis. Um, Alec K is going to be helping me with commentary since I'm going to be focusing on the run for the majority of the time. So this is the glitchless category, basically playing through the game as fast as possible. So
Yeah. Hi, I'm Alec47 doing commentary for this, like you said, and also the next two runs.
all right, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. Let's get back to the title screen. All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Alright, so I am viewing this with about 3 to 4 seconds of delay, which is pretty good, all things considered. So bear in mind that as you watch, this game is actually very different glitched and glitchless. There are a lot of skips in the game, mostly level wraps, but not all. And some of them get very, very silly. You saw him mess up a slope jump there. You can do 2 slope jumps on that loop and get a bunch of speed from it, but they're kind of tricky. You have a couple frames for each one, and if you missed it, typically something like that happens. So getting a 31 is actually not that bad in terms of real time because of the score countdown. That's also going to be a thing in Sonic 2 especially, because getting underneath a 30-second time gives you 50,000 points, and 30 seconds or more, up through 44 seconds, gives you 10,000 points. And that can happen. That's
I've
not
never died like that
uncommon.
before.
Yeah, I've died there some silly ways, but never quite like that. Anyway, there are some quirks to this version of Sonic that are rather unfortunate. One of which is that you don't have iframes for spikes, so you land on them and bounce onto more spikes, you just die. And that's not quite what happened there, because he clipped between the spikes and the platform, so technically that was a glitch, but it is a glitch that killed him, so, you know, whatever. Anyway, Sonic 1 is a very unforgiving speed run, not just because of things like that, but especially if you run the glitch category. The glitches, all but pretty much one of them, are really, really stupid. Like, you're talking 1 or 2 frame leeway for most of them, and 1 or 2 frame leeway for multiple components to the glitches in many cases. This is a much more accessible category, and it certainly has its merits because the game is like, I don't really enjoy it too much when I'm going for a lot of the skips because so many of them are just that stupid to get. But there's still plenty of stuff that can happen. The spikes, like I mentioned earlier, there's a speed cap. What that means is if you're going above a certain speed and you press that direction, you get slowed down to a set speed. In Sonic 1, it's not just in the air, but on ground as well. So there's a fair amount of attention you have to pay to whether you're pressing those directions or not and what speed you're going. In Sonic 2, they half fixed it, so it only applies in the air. And in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and also Sonic 2 as Knuckles, because of the Sonic and Knuckles cart, that is fixed, and so there's no speed cap whatsoever. But that's one of the things that you'll see him doing in many cases. If he's going really fast, he's not pressing the direction he's going unless his inputs are locked from jumping out of a roll. That is the only exception.
I just missed a cycle there.
Yeah, it's really easy to miss cycles in this part. Some of them are pretty tricky, and obviously if you're just a little bit slow, you die. There he went for a damage boost and then another damage boost. One to get past the lava section a little bit quicker so he didn't have to wait for all those little platforms to fall from the ceiling. And then the other one to skip part of the cycle with those spike crushers. Now, Marble is the area where you'd start seeing a lot of the skips in the glitch run. It's also, consequently, where a lot of runs just die, because there is a major skip in all 3 acts, and all of them are tricky. 2 is probably the easiest. Act 3 has 2 parts to it that makes it difficult, and Act 1 is also very precise. So the worst thing to deal with here, I would say, in this act, not using glitches, is that red spring. Otherwise, missing these jumps can be pretty costly, but fortunately, you can just try again, grab a ring, and get your momentum back, and you can make that jump. Otherwise, the caterpillars can sometimes troll you because their hitboxes are actually really silly, especially after they explode. If you roll into one, there's actually a good chance that you'll get hit even though you defeat it, which is fun.
Just barely got through that one.
Yeah, nice. So that damage boost obviously lets him skip a cycle and all those crushers, so that's something you want to do.
Got stuck there.
Yeah. This game, if you roll, it significantly impacts your control over your horizontal speed, but it also lowers Sonic's hitbox, so he's able to squeak into gaps that he otherwise wouldn't be able to. So it's a bit of a trade-off you do in many places, just to get him shorter so you can get into an area and not bonk on the ceiling. But sometimes, if you don't have enough speed, you can end up kind of caught on a corner like that and not falling down where you wanted to there. Here, there's a safety life that I always get. You see that he has 100,000 points. In Sonic 2, he would have gained 2 extra lives from that score. Now, in Sonic 1, you get that if you run on the Japanese version. He obviously, as you can see, is not playing on the Japanese version because he does not have those lives. So if you're going to get into the game and don't necessarily have it, and you're going to play it on emulator, I recommend using the Japanese ROM instead, because that way, when you finish a level fast, which you will for quite a few levels, especially if you're going the glitch route, you will get bonus lives and therefore increase your chances of being able to continue without a game over.
It was a very close call in that boss fight. Alright, Spring Yard Zone, which is pretty much one of my least favorite zones. I didn't want to bonk on those.
Spring Yard, when you play them really smoothly, are very quick. There are some really tricky jumps that can lose you a little bit of time, and I think it's a little bit more pronounced in Act 2. But there are some of those enemies that are in somewhat trolley positions, and a few jumps to maintain your momentum that are rather precise. And in Act 3 especially, there are some really annoying jumps that you can do to basically skip a portion that is just cycles. And are you going for those? For the top?
Probably. I don't know if I really want to. Because,
Yeah.
usually when I try to go for that, I die a lot, so I don't know if I really want to go for it. Oh,
that way, there's a really precise jump that you have to do. And you can see here, he's kind of falling into some of these pits and such. You can finish this level about as fast as Act 1, but when you make mistakes, it punishes them.
Okay, let's see how the beginning goes here. Okay, I took that a little safe, because most of the time when I hit the ring box, I'll still hit the spiky ball and end up dying without the rings appearing.
Yeah, the typical method is to just kind of jump left at the very start, and that delays you a little bit in the cycle. It was also possible for him to jump up to this area a little bit quicker out of that area with the block cycle, but there's a very high chance he'll just get crushed if you do that. So I can't blame him for not going for that in a marathon.
Yeah.
And this is the easier way. There's also a top route that he could have taken, and the main thing there is that there is a really tricky series of jumps in order to get enough momentum to get up to that very top route. In order to get that, you need to get a certain amount of speed on a slope, and doing that and maintaining it through the jump requires you to pretty much jump as soon as you land a couple times. And it's easy to miss it for a while, I've found. So I tend to not go that way in the rare instance that I actually participate in a race with this game in it.
Just missed the first cycle, or the one cycle kill. But...
Yeah, that boss, you can hit him when he's in most of the positions he can be up top, but he kind of oscillates up and down. So you have to jump so that you would hit him when he's a little bit lower. And if you get your jumps really good, you can just kill him before he really starts going over to the left, but that's really tight.
Alright, Labyrinth Zone. These levels can get pretty scary, so... Especially when you're underwater.
You going for a bubbleless?
No.
Okay, yeah, bubbleless is a strat in Act 3 that is really absurd. I'll explain it when he gets to that point. But here he hit that switch, and what that does, in addition to opening the gate, is spawn this platform here. This allows him to skip an entire underwater section, and there's a jump that you can do here a little bit earlier than he did to get over to this area sooner, but if you miss it short, there are spikes below, and that's instant death every time.
Yeah, I was practicing that strat earlier, but I wasn't getting the jump correctly, so I just decided to write it out.
Yeah. Like I said, a lot of stuff in this game that will just kill you, even if you're doing glitchless. Do I think this game is easier or harder than Super Mario Bros. 1 for the SNES? I would say that it's harder, but not by an extremely large amount. Labyrinth 3 is probably the big difficulty spike, but if you're patient there and good with your jumps, you can get through it pretty easily. SMB1, I'd say, is fairly similar. As far as speedrunning goes, I would probably rank the difficulty of, I would say, like, any percent with glitches in Sonic 1 is harder than in SMB1. but the glitchless category is probably a little bit easier than Mario 1.
That's probably the only bubbleless thing I'll do.
Yeah. In this section, he would have skipped if he were doing glitches, and that's actually the easiest glitch in the run, basically. You would have, he would have jumped on that one little gate that was opening about 30-40 seconds in, and that would have carried him into the wall. He would have been able to do a zip to the end there, but obviously that's a glitch, and this is glitchless. Anyway, right around here is where he would be starting the strats for bubbleless if you were doing that. You'd have had to get hit into the water, because one of the little trivial things that a lot of people don't know is that if you get hit into the water, your air timer just doesn't start counting down until you hit the ground. And it is possible by doing that to get all the way through this entire section without getting a bubble.
Oh my god, my heart was pounding on that part.
Yeah, that couldn't have got any closer. He was like a frame or two away from death. So even if you're getting a bubble, that can be really tricky. And seeing how much extra there was in that area, you can see just how tricky it is to get bubbleless. There are only one or two people who ever go for it, particularly Tenebrae, who is basically the Sonic 1 god. I think is the only one who would consistently go for it, and even then, a lot of the time he'll end up not doing it just because he'll realize that he's lost too much time and that he would drown before he got out of the water.
Sorry if I gave anybody any heart attacks in the water levels.
Yeah, there's a bit of a clench in chat.
Here comes my favorite set of stages.
Yeah, Starlight has really cool music and is a relatively easy but still fun to play set of stages. Like, it's one of the few parts of this game that I actually enjoy running. There's a lot of momentum management and such, but it's not super punishing in most cases. There are a couple places where you can fall to your death, but beyond that, it's just kind of a nice, smooth set of stages.
Finishing that level in 27 seconds is pretty much my average. Pretty happy with that. See if I can get this though. Yeah. Alright, cool. That was a pretty good level there.
Yeah. These stages, Act 1 and Act 2, also have level wraps, or at least Act 2 does. Yeah, Act 1 and Act 2 do. But they don't save a ton of time because you're finishing them around 25-30 seconds if you do it really well anyway.
Oops.
And, oh, just missed it. You can still get up there, but that's where you want to be because you actually want to take the top route through this level. It is the fast way. So he's going to go kind of around here and end up back where he would have been. That first thing is what he would have landed on. And then he's going to make his way through here. And a couple jumps that are a little bit tight. There's also a little trick you can do coming up in a few seconds. And that's just... oh, look, it's going
I went a completely different
entirely. I was going to say, there's a little... If you had gone that lower way, then there's a little trick you can do to get yourself into, like, kind of past the obstacles by damage boosting and then turning around at the last second just so that you get bounced forward instead of back. And that's honestly about it, really. This boss is really annoying. You can do some really precise things. You can jump off the exact midpoint and get hits, midpoint of those little seesaws. You can also get a reliable cycle if you get the start right, but that's really tricky. And once you mess up, it's just kind of making sure you get what hits you can and not getting too greedy.
Yeah, exactly.
Scrap Brain is my favorite music in the game. And these, Act 1 and Act 2, again, as a theme, have skips if you use glitches, but obviously he's not doing that. And the one in Act 1 actually has a pretty high chance of soft locking the game, so go for that at your own peril.
Oh, no.
And it's not a super long level anyway, though you can have things like that happen. Fortunately, he landed on those platforms there, because there's a death pit beneath there. Especially with the lag, it can be a little bit tricky to get through that section with the rotating platforms and the flames. He's just going a little bit too fast. The flame was about to disappear, but he got hit there as a result.
Also, in that part where I got hit by the flame, I tried to do a damage boost through, but I ended up going the other way, so ended up missing that altogether, but that's okay. Oh, jeez. Let's see if I can get this bounce here. Nope. Got hit by the electric shock.
Oh man, that was really close. Basically, if you hold jump when you hit a item box or a badnik, you can maintain the bounce, and what he was trying to do there would have bounced him all the way up to the top of that area and would have skipped through there nicely.
A lot of like intended getting hit.
Yeah, it's just faster to kind of damage boost through a lot of things there. Scrap Brain 3 has a skip as well, another one that doesn't save too much time, but you can basically get a glitch called Slow Glitch and carry it basically out the top of the level, which is the end of it. And you can see here that he's taking this path through the stage, and he's still going to finish it really fast. So it saves a little over 10 seconds if you do it first try, but obviously the stage is really fast anyway. Now, if you just run up to the boss here and then you get all the hits against him without pressing the D-pad as you get the hit, then he will follow the same pattern every single time. It can be a little bit tricky because some of the positioning is a little weird. Also, if you're jumping, crushers tend to not crush you so much, like you saw there. I'm not sure how intended that was, but that's the way it works. It just kind of clips you out to the side. And,
it's as intended.
Yeah. But then it's just a matter of making sure you don't mess it up, really, because there's the consistent setup and then you just get your hits. Boss is over.
All right, and time's coming up when screen fades to black, and we got decapitation. And
but that's a glitch. So yeah, he just despawned the head there, and that's just kind of a traditional thing we all like to do when we finish that game. Even as a kid, I would do it.
Shout out to Tenebrae.
GG, dude.
Oh, thanks, man. Wow, that was quite the run. I was expected to die in Green Hill too, although some of those mess-ups were really weird. But other than that, I was really happy with how the rest of the levels turned out, especially Labyrinth 2 and 3 with that clutch bubble. But I mean,
that was a moment.
I mean, that was a lot of fun. I mean, I was really happy to play this game for you guys, and hope you guys enjoyed the run. Stay tuned for Sonic 2 because we got our man here, Alec K, running next, as well as Sonic 3 and Knuckles. So stick around for those. And thanks for having me. I'll be back with Mario 1 shortly when the Mario block begins.
After some music, we'll be right back.